Oh, let's just come to our hearts. So we're going to enter the time of prayer through the doorway of our hearts. And we open it by breathing in and out through the heart. Imagine that we are drawing the power of love from the heart with the in-breath and breathing it out to the world. Breathe in love. Breathe out any anger, hatred, anything that is less than that perfect love. Breathe in love. And release our fears, our doubts, our anxieties, our isolation. Breathe in love. And breathe out all criticism, condemnation, and judgment. And as we continue to breathe normally, focusing, if we can, on the heart, we come together tonight, one mind, one heart, one being, to open the way for the power of A Course in Miracles to establish itself in our lives and in the world. We align ourselves with its tenets, its teachings, that we may express it and bring the light of it into the world for all of our brothers and sisters everywhere. That we may know its value, its promise, and its power. And as we begin to study the messages that evolve from this powerful teaching, let us open ourselves in preparation for each of us to discern our personal messages, our direct guidance, and also what is ours to do for the healing of the world. And we are so grateful for all of us who have come together tonight and each week to align at our hearts, to establish a springboard for this powerful work called A Course in Miracles. And as we allow ourselves to absorb its power, let us spend some time in the silence, taking in all that the Holy Spirit would have us absorb, and releasing anything that is out of alignment with the truth of our being in the silence. And let these words be your words. I surrender all. I release any and everything that is unlike the power that expresses through and from me. I stand ready and prepared to be the catalyst for healing the world. I accept the charge you have given me, beloved presence. And together, of one mind and one heart, we affirm, I am here only to be truly helpful. I am here to represent God who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do, because God who sent me will direct me. I am content to be wherever God wishes, knowing God goes there with me. I will be healed as I let God teach me to heal. And so it is, for it could not be otherwise. Amen and Ashe.
Thank you, Mother.
You're welcome.
All right. So the beautiful thing is I have no idea what we're going to be reading. So I just love this whole spontaneous discussion. We are in week 3 of our 4-week spontaneous discussion series called Miracle Wheel. Claudia, did we collect 5 numbers? Yes? No? You're muted.
You're muted.
Oh, sorry. No, I didn't collect it. I just had the names on the order that they came.
Okay. Who's first? You. So what's your number?
Me is 34 today.
Hold on one second. Let me get that. All right, Claudia, 34.
Then was Sheila.
Mom, 11 again?
Yes.
Okay.
Then was Debbie.
Debbie,
7.
7.
Then it was Mark.
Mark,
26.
26. One more.
One more was Bill.
Bill,
23.
23?
Yes.
23. All right, Claudia, do me a favor and go ahead and spin the wheel so we can at least know what part we're going to. Okay, all right. Go ahead and give it a good spin.
Okay. And, oh my God, it's in the middle of something. So,
One more.
the workbook for students.
Workbook for students. Okay, so anyway, let me just go ahead and do these calculations and then we'll go to the workbook for students. One second.
So, we should take today's lesson. We might.
It's going to be random.
Okay.
So it's going to be based on the numbers of the people, what the people selected. So give me just a second. Let me copy this formula and put it on this other page that I have the numbers. right. Sure. So if you guys want to talk while I start doing calculations and stuff like that, if you guys want to do like a couple of minutes of small talk, that's
A break.
be my guess.
Okay. We have a break, guys.
Anything special going on with anybody? Anybody? Anything? You know, Mom, is there any special going on? I'm not talking about a break, but I'm just saying, is there any thing that anybody wants to share? That's what I'm talking about. Let's use this time to share.
Sheila, you need to mute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I am so swamped right now with clients. I have 10 clients, 10 coaching clients. And it's amazing. And they're in lots of different places. So, but it's good, and I'm exhausted because for
May
some
I ask
reason.
you a question?
Yes.
What shifted in you to bring about the influx of clients?
Started doing an affirmation. I am now attracting prosperity in the field which I desire. And I do a lot of things, but the radical forgiveness coaching is my true passion. But I did that for 30 days.
Thank you for sharing.
No problem, sweetie. I love to let people know the stuff I do, just in case it might help. Yeah.
I want to share a miracle, if I may.
Sure.
Since we're doing Course in Miracle, a couple of days ago, I'm in the morning in the backyard doing, my readings and some practices, and I'm there from like 7:30 to 10:30, like having my routine. And my husband comes in there when he leaves for work and says goodbye. So I walked in because my phone was running out of the charge. So I ran in to get my charger, and I noticed my husband going in the backyard to say goodbye to me. And so he kind of just said goodbye and left. So I went from the other door out to say goodbye to him because, we kind of missed each other. And I never go out as he leaves the house, and the timing and all that. And as he said goodbye to me, he pulled out of the driveway and he was backing out and he wasn't looking. And one of our neighbors was walking, crossing our driveway. And I just told him in Farsi, kind of like, watch out, very gently. And he stopped and he looked. And to me, that was a miracle, because I wouldn't have been normally out there. I would be just sitting still in the backyard and my phone running out of the charge, me running in, and all that timing. So that's one of my things, noticing all these miracles and the timing that happens. I didn't make a big deal of it. I didn't talk about it later or anything, just because I didn't want to, make him uncomfortable. But to me, I was just like, thank God, thank you, universe, thank you, everything, thank you, phone, for running out of charge, all of that.
The synchronicity. Okay, we got the lesson. 274 is even to say?
Yes. Lesson 274. I don't even know what that is. So let me go to.
Really nice.
Let me go to.
That's a really nice lesson.
Workbook for students, lesson 274.
Today belongs to love.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Today belongs to love. Let me not fear.
That's
Ooh. Oh, yes.
All right. Okay, that's beautiful. Man, how often is that? So, Claudia, would you mind reading the first paragraph, please?
Okay. This Father, today I will let all things be as you create them, and give your Son the honor due his sinlessness, the love of brother to his brother and his friend. Through this I am redeemed. Through this as well the truth will enter where illusions were. Light will replace all darkness, and your Son will now, he is as you create him.
All right. Anything that comes to you with that paragraph that you read?
Yeah, a lot. Just hold on.
We're listening whenever you're ready.
Yeah, so I mean, my reflection here was about something that I was working on today for my talk. But yeah, definitely, you know, when we use the sun, or sometimes when we don't see our brothers and sisters really how they are through our physical eyes and our senses. Is when we go into the sun or the Christ nature when we can see beyond that, and we can really see the truth in them and in everywhere, you know. So when we are on that place, you know, is where we can really create a better reality or a better perspective what we see. So this is what basically tells me, you know.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Going out to the group. Anybody have anything else that comes to you with that paragraph? Okay, Claudia, who's next?
Next incoming or next incoming after we say numbers?
The next person for the numbers, the next person that came on. So who's that? Who?
Krista.
Christy. Okay, Krista.
You had the book?
Yes.
Wait
Yes,
a minute. Wait, you said it's Krista was the next one that came on? Because I didn't have her for a number.
I mean, yeah.
Oh, yeah. No. I thought it was you, then Mom, then Debbie, then Mark, and Bill as far as the numbers.
Yeah, that's what I say. If it's the next person that we already have a chance to say numbers, or you will.
I can read.
Yeah.
And Krista can take my part because I can't read it anyway because I'm
You're
using.
right. You're right, Mom. Okay,
Right.
Go ahead, Krista.
Okay. Does it begin with a special blessing? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. A special blessing comes to us today from Him who is our Father. Give this day to Him, and there will be no fear today, because the day is given unto love.
All right. So, Krista, I want you to kind of combine that with the first paragraph, and we're going to go ahead. For this first half of the Course in Miracles, we're going to talk the heck out of this workbook lesson 274. So,
because it's so short, we're going to really drag it out. All right. I have nothing, Stephen. Zero. Zilch. Nada.
You don't have anything?
Combine them. Not a thing. Not a thing.
Okay.
Well, can I share something?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, since she and I are taking turns with that paragraph.
Okay. Okay.
All day today, and with my coachings and then the prayer that you invited me to give, I have been focused on love. I'm not surprised at the lesson that came up. I have been feeling that there is a strong call right now that we send into the center of our being, the center of the planet, the center of our thoughts, the center of our actions, love. That that we need to consciously think, feel, and express love. That there is something going on, and that we can reach that midpoint to pour in as much love as we can. Because I keep being told that's going to heal this situation. And that we are meant to just begin to just pour love, to let go of our criticisms, condemnations, and judgments about all of this that's going on. Remove those, let them go. But simply focus on sending the energy of love as much as we can to support ourselves in reaching a critical mass of the energy of love. And that is what will turn all of this around. And I've mentioned it, all my clients today. Someone called me for some guidance. It was about love. And as you see the meditation, what came up for me, love. So I think it feels like a message to me. And so that's just my 2 cents.
Thank you, Mother. Anybody else?
Mosh, Debbie.
Mosh.
So I want to say what I shared about that miracle, it fits exactly into this lesson that the way I see it, to let it be as the day is, and not to make any fuss about it. Like when my phone was running out of charge in the middle of what I was doing, instead of me being angry, I'm like, I need to just go get the charger, or just trust that needs to happen. And then it was out of love that I walked out to say goodbye. Otherwise I would be like, oh, let him go. It's an everyday thing. He already said goodbye. He thought I was in the yard. We're good. But out of love, I ran out and I don't even know why I did, because if I'm busy, I would normally just be, okay, he said bye. I heard him, and he kind of thought he said it to me, and we're good to go. But it was out of that extra feeling, oh, I want to see him and say goodbye in a proper way, because I wasn't out there when he said bye. So out of that is, to me, is in this letter, and then kind of just have that trust that all of this is just letting things be, and at the same time, move from love.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
See, you answered the call to love.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And normally I could be just like, because we've been married for a long time, so there's always something that I could be saying, I'm not going out to say goodbye. But I did that day, and I really don't know why, but I did.
I know why you did.
Mm-hmm.
You heard the call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no, I heard the call, but there was no reason up here that would be making me go out. Like there was no need, or there is no requirement, or there is no expectation.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And we're being called to experience that same dynamic when it is not our spouse, when it is not our friend, when it is not, as a matter of fact, we're being called to experience that same dynamic when it is our enemy. I believe that Jesus said, love your enemies. So if this is Jesus speaking through Helen Schuckman, are we expecting a different message today? He said, love your enemies. So let's, I invite you all to look within and see who your enemies are. Yes, we're in a Course in Miracles, and I'm going to say right now, I invite you to look within and see those people who you have difficulties with, those people who you just don't get, those people who, are really frustrating to you, whether you know them personally or whether they're, someone that's in political office, whatever, it doesn't really matter. It's all relative, whether it's your neighbor who you're cross with because they're always, bringing their dog and doing something on your grass, whatever it is, whatever it is. But I invite you to look at every person that takes you from your sense of peace. Let's look at that right now. Let's look at that right now, okay? Now, is this person really somebody else? Or is this person you, born into different circumstances, born to different parents, born into a different culture, born into different ideas, born into different socioeconomic class? And if this is really you, born into a different set of circumstances, different situation and things like that, can you still experience that same feeling, that same dynamic, that same level of upsetness if this person is really you, just born into a different situation, born in a different color, born into a different family in a different part of the world, but is you nonetheless? Can you still feel the same way about this person? And I want you to be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself. We're about honesty here. We're not trying to prove anything to anybody. Can you still feel the same way about yourself, born into different set of circumstances? Now, some of us can, because some of us do not like ourselves. Some of us have, have other things that we're dealing with, and we're not, completely accepting of ourselves. So some of us can definitely say, yes, if it was me, born into a different set of circumstances, yes, I would feel the exact same way. But let's really think about that. Let's really think about that, because if we're really going to break down these barriers, we really have to really look at what's creating the barriers. First of all, let's really look at what's creating the barriers so we actually know. What's creating the barriers is possibly looking at the ideology that the person subscribes to as opposed to looking at the person. Is ideology more important than the person? Does God live in that person just like God lives in you? And if that is the case, do you also hate God? Is God also your enemy? Do you have a problem with God? You have to think about these things, because God is a part of everybody. And God would no more be separated from his children than God would have his children separated from each other. So this is a very fitting workbook lesson. And some of you all probably may, some of you all think that I just deliberately chose this workbook lesson. I can promise you I did not. So I just invite you all to use your imagination. Just use your imagination and just say, if this person is really me, am I still pointing the same fingers at them? Do I still feel the same way? If this person is me, but for example, was born into a racist family, for example, but this is still me, literally me, do I still feel the same way about them? Or do I have another idea in mind that can unify us, that can allow us to look past our differences, that can allow us to look past the error, not to say that we are saying that it's okay, but at the same time saying, hey, the error is not the same as my brother. The error and the person that committed it are not the same. The person and the belief that the person subscribes to is not the same. So,
Well, Stephen,
yes, Mother.
there is another approach to this as well.
Mhm.
There's only one of us anyway.
Absolutely. You're absolutely correct. There is
There's
only
only
one.
one of us. Absolutely. So if we point the finger at someone else, we're pointing the finger at ourselves. We're talking
Absolutely.
about ourselves.
Yep.
So there is an aspect of us that is committing the same acts as that person that we are withholding love from.
Absolutely. And, you know, I believe Moj described this very well several Thursdays ago. I don't remember when, but you guys know I watch these Course in Miracles things. I learned a whole lot. Moj was saying, she was calling humans the one who forgets or something like that. And so the same thing that you just said, there's only one of us, we're going to forget it. You know, something's going to happen on the news or whatever, we're going to forget completely that there's only one of us. We're going to forget, it's going to go right out the window. We're holding it right now. We're holding the space for it right now because we're in this conversation. But as soon as something happens that, you know, somebody did this or somebody did that on TV or whatever, maybe somebody, you know, parked in your favorite parking spot, I don't know, cut you off on the freeway, all of a sudden there's only one of us, goes right out the window.
Yeah, we've all created egos. You know, we've had a lifetime to create this ego. We all have. And, you know, I fall into mine and I think, wait a minute, this is my ego. This is not the love part of me. And I get out of the ego and think about love. Like I said yesterday, I was talking on a Zoom group of people, and I said, you know, we need to stop thinking about people as being individual bodies, and that we're afraid of John or Julie or whatever because they might get this before I do, and all this kind of thing, competitiveness, and realize that we're all brothers. And if we do that, then they love us, we love them, and it sure makes a great world.
Absolutely.
If we can get to that point.
Absolutely, William, until we forget.
Yeah. Exactly.
Until we forget.
That's a daily thing.
That's a daily thing. And you know, from that standpoint, you guys, don't beat up on yourself. I'm just wanting to give us something to think about. Please don't beat up on yourself, you know, because it happens. It happens.
Yes. Yeah.
And
you
show
know,
that same type of grace and mercy towards yourself that you would that you would appreciate someone showing to you. Show it towards yourself, please.
Yeah. The other day I was having some discomfort or whatever, and I got thinking about it. Why am I feeling this way? And so, I made some mistakes, and I just asked the Lord God to help me. And I mean, it was like I was healed. I was fine after that. It was beautiful. Yeah.
Bill, just unmute yourself, please.
You know, that whole thing about condemning or holding grievances, you know, and there's something that one of my favorite parts of what Jesus says in the course here about that is like, I read this and I've had it expounded to me way back in my early course days, and it's just been the last year or so that I really could hear what it was saying to me. And I want to read a little bit of it. It's so powerful. When I really heard what this was saying, it changed everything when it came to grievances. But let me just read it, and then we could talk about it a little bit. It's from chapter 31 called the self-accused. It says, only the self-accused condemn. As you prepare to make a choice that will result in different outcomes, there is first one thing that must be overlearned. It must become a habit of response so typical of everything you do that it becomes your first response to all temptation and to every situation that occurs. Learn this and learn it well. For it is here, delay of happiness is shortened by a span of time you cannot realize. You never hate your brother for his sins, but only for your own. Whatever form his sins appear to take, it but obscures the fact that you believe them to be yours, and therefore meriting just attack. And it goes on, and I won't read the whole thing, but it says, if you did not believe that you deserved attack, it never would occur to you to give attack to anyone at all. And that when I got that, whenever I feel the need whenever I do it, and I'm not saying I don't do it, but when I attack and when I take it back to saying, hey, wait a minute, what did Jesus say about this? And I come back and look in my mind, there is guilt. Now, I'm not saying what is in my mind is the truth about me, but somewhere in the past, I have held myself guilty of something, and I have logged it in my mind, and it's still there in the unconscious that I have guilt about myself, and that's why I'm feeling the need to attack someone else for it. And when I got that, it's like, and my attack thoughts toward others or judgment or anything like that is the most useful tool I have now for finding out where I've been mistaken about what I am. It's the, like some people say, relationships and that's the fast track to salvation, to healing, because that's where I find my healing, and when I got that, that's what the Course means by when you've done your forgiveness, you realize there's nothing to forgive, because I've always just been attacking myself, my own guilt, now erroneous beliefs about myself where I have logged in that I am guilty, and I have that, and it's way at a level that's completely out of touch with this conscious waking mind that I'm talking to you all with right now, but it's down in there. And that's why I feel the need to attack. And if you read that section, I just read it again today because that's where I was at, and it just makes my jaw drop and go, oh my God, I've been wrong about everything. I've been mistaken about so much, including what I am. I have held myself in chains all this time, and I didn't know I was doing it. And when I was looking out there full of these judgments and everything about everything, that's what was coming up. And it's like, finally somebody explained to me how this stuff works, when I read that, and it's mind blowing to me, it's like, it changes everything. It changes everything.
Absolutely. And something, Bill, I really appreciate, what you just now said. And, that goes for every time I hear when you start really going into some of your experiences. Sometimes I find myself thinking, this is truly my brother from another mother. Because I see myself going through so many of those same things, Bill, coming to there's so many of those same realizations. And so, I'll share them with Claudia or my mom and things like that. They understand me, they understand. And so I'll say, this is what I'm going through now. Cause, I like to share these things with people, but a lot of the things that I hear you saying, Bill, are many of the realizations that I come through, that I go through as well. And I'm so glad that you are so open with sharing these things. And, because I didn't realize myself either that I was keeping myself in chains, when I was looking at people a certain way, Bill. I didn't realize that. Exactly what you were saying, I didn't realize that. And I was like, oh my God. And so the people that get those oh my God phone calls are Claudia and my mom. They're the ones that get those oh my God phone calls. So I'm just like, oh my God, I was looking at this person like, it was them and it was really me. And it's really a wonderful realization, because it's like it's a whole shift in your perception, and so, but thank you for sharing that, Bill. Thank you.
why the Course calls those people that we are the most angry with our saviors.
Absolutely. Those are our saviors who, thank you, Bill. Those same people that get you out of sorts and stuff like that, those are your saviors. Exactly. Exactly. Thank you, Bill. Anybody else? Come on. Yeah, we're getting deep today. We're about to get deep in here today.
I guess I'll let
Yeah.
Sandy go, and then I'll go after Sandy.
Okay, Sandy.
She had her.
Okay. Couple of things. This idea of the people we dislike the most, the ones that teach us the best lessons about ourselves, are our saviors.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a couple of months ago when we were shut down the first time, and I consider we're shut down again, there were a number of things going on in on the internet. Mother Nature has sent you to your room. God has sent you to your room. I believe that, yes, indeed, we have been stopped in our tracks to see where our thinking has gone awry, so to speak.
Absolutely.
And that's a segue exactly to what everyone else has been saying about who are you hating? Who are you having the biggest problem with? I don't think we have to go far to say who that might be for some of us.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, whoever it is, but I'm not going to say the person's name, but I'm going to use that a person who is so ridiculous that you have to pay attention. It's so off the chart in terms of ridiculousness that you must pay attention to it, and you must self-reflect about why this is here.
Isn't that beautiful?
Right?
I said, isn't that beautiful?
And yes, and in our lesson, and for some people, I've said, thank you for being in my life, because I've had epiphanies, I've had different things, but our lesson says, through this as well, the truth will enter where illusions were. Light will replace all darkness, and your son will know he is as you created him. Light will replace darkness. You know, we can't see what's in our hearts, I'm going to say it that way, unless we shine some light on it.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, is the light being shined on it now. So, thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. And I miss you, Sandy. You've been gone for a while. You know, I miss some of those Sandyisms and some of that Sandy, you know, mentality and personality. So it's so good to have you with us. You know, we missed you. Anybody else? Mom, you're muted if you're trying to talk. You're still muted. There you go. No, I'm muted. You just muted yourself back. There you go. Don't touch anything.
No, I'm not. You know, that's why we say in radical forgiveness, when we're doing the healing work, and we are stating the grievances that we have against something or someone, and then we follow that with, wow, look what I created.
Absolutely. And I think Moj had something to say. I forgot, Moj. I apologize. Go ahead.
No worries, no worries. There's plenty of time. Plenty of time abundance. So I wanted to go back to couple of things. One thing is I have a better chance of remembrance if I would in regular life to remember people, strangers, as if they're my kids or if they're my uncles and aunts and parents and brother or so on and so forth. And that's and they're just them just having a bad day. And it's kind of easier for me to find that sympathy rather than remembering them as me. I guess to me is anything that works. But going back to my childhood, when I would go to those, I think they were called, theosophy classes or self-sophy or theosophy, you know, either knowing God or knowing yourself. And as I think I mentioned this before, that one of their main lessons was, like, the top lesson was knowing God is knowing yourself, or knowing yourself is knowing God. And so one of the things that I remember as a kid there, that my mom, like, we would use that in our home. If I would say I'm mad at someone, my mom would correct me that you're mad at what they did, not at them. You're mad at the action. Or, you know, I don't like that. It's like, you don't like what they did. And one of the things that I learned out of that was, if my kids would do something bad, I would never tell them you're a bad kid. I would say what you did was not kind. What you did, even if I would use the word bad, I would put their action rather than on them. But I think after, when, you know, you guys were talking, when Bill was saying things, and in Course of Miracle language, I think it would be that I would dislike the illusion that they are in rather than them as a person, because so it would be more like, if I want to say I don't like that person, I would say, instead of saying I don't like what they are acting as or what they're doing, it would be more of, I don't like the illusion that they're in. That illusion that they're in doesn't work for me, or, you know, so the languaging would be, and then if I want to take responsibility for that, I would say the illusion that I see, the illusion that they're in there, my illusion that I see, their illusion. But then it would be more like, I love them as a being, as the soul that they are, as a God that they are, as the light that they are. But I dislike the illusion that they're in, and from that space, the action that they're taking.
Thank you, Mose.
Yeah.
And that was very insightful of your mother, you know, I love that. I love that, you know, what you did, you know, versus the person, you know, looking at at the action. I disapprove of the behavior.
Yeah, it was part of all those teachings. Like, they would talk about those teachings all the time, but then, you know, to practice it at home, it was actually kind of neat, because that's how it engraves, when you actually do it in action, and rather than just learn it in a classroom as somebody is talking and you're like, oh, don't do this, don't do that. Whereas when you practice in real life, it sticks better, and you appreciate it better, because you are not bad. What you did was, and you're like, oh, okay, I can make a choice. I can, like, shift out of that and make another choice and do something else. So it's not me that it's bad. It's the choice I made.
And, you know, see, along with what you're saying, Moj, and I needed a way, once I really got really deep into A Course in Miracles, to kind of reconcile with people that I didn't agree with, as far as, you know, their behavior and things like that. So I'm not going to mention any names or anything like that, but I had to find a way to really reconcile, you know, and if I'm going to really see this person as my brother, what about all this other stuff? So I had to kind of be able to reconcile it in my mind. And so then I began to say, you know something, an idea that this person subscribes to is not this person. It's an idea. You know, this idea could have been, you know, however they came across this idea, you know, but at the same time, that's still not them. I subscribe to ideas. That's not who I am. You know, I subscribe to plenty of ideas. And I change, you know something, I can change my mind too and have new ideas. And so can this person, you know, this person can have new ideas as well. They can have a complete change of perception or whatever. And who's to say that, you know, my perception is right anyway? You know, to be honest with you, my rightness doesn't make somebody else wrong. And somebody else being right doesn't make me wrong. You know, because we're proceeding from our own truth. So, you know, if there is something that rings to you as true, then go deep within and really find out why it rings to you as true. Because see, there's a deep, deep truth from your point of view that we're all being called to share our deepest truths from our own point of view, and somebody's going to hear that deep, deep truth from your point of view, and it's going to resonate, even if they may not resonate exactly what you're saying. It's going to resonate with a deep, deep truth that's for them. And so we're all being, so we're not meant to really have the same truths anyway, because, we're meant to have these different truths and to go within and go into the deepest parts of us, and then bring those things forward with beautiful realizations of discovery, things that we've learned about ourselves. This is what I've learned about myself, and things like that. And this is how I healed and stuff like that. And that's how the world heals, when they begin to hear your testimony from your journey and things like that. So, anybody else?
Yeah, I'd like to say something.
Absolutely.
The lesson starts out, the title, Today Belongs to Love. Let me not fear. And it says to turn, a special blessing comes to us today from him who is our Father. And that's how I talk to God, to Jesus. I call him my buddy. And I get that special blessing every day. It's up to me whether I want to ruin it with some kind of fear. And if you have that love, the fear can't get in. Last 2 days of my life, most people would describe as pretty eventful. Talking to the doctor today, I noticed, man, this guy's really uncomfortable. He's more uncomfortable than I am. So I started talking to him with love in my heart. This is the way it is. I'm good with it. You did what you could. You did. He told me in the beginning, I'm going to treat you like you're my dad. And he did. Okay. And he started to loosen up a little bit. And he's not much older than my son. And you could see that he was upset. But the more I talked about having inner peace and that I was good with what was going on, I knew what the score was before I got in this game. And he kind of loosened up a little bit, and we had a good talk. And he just said at the end, don't forget, I'll always be your doctor. And I was like, yeah, I know. He goes, anything goes wrong, you call me. So it ended on a love note. It didn't end on a note of him being fearful and me being fearful and wrecking the whole thing. And there were two of his nurses that I got close to there because I've been going there so long. And one of them came in, and I gave her the term lasagna ripple. And I told her my life used to be, if you put it in a graph, it was a series of spikes and big dips, and there was no smoothness to it at all. But when I turned my life over to God as I understood him, and I had faith and then trust in him, my life became a lasagna ripple. And she said, I'm going to use that. I said, feel free. And she came in today, and they, we're still with the masks and all that. And both her, the doctor, and other nurse, they gave me all hugs. And she said, I'm going to use that. I'll never forget lasagna ripple. So, we can spread love no matter what the situation is. That's what it's all about. And I learned that a long time ago. This is putting it into perspective. I see where it's coming from now. Early on, turning my life over, I thought I was doing this. you know, the intellect, the ego, that I was making the choice to do this. And it wasn't. I turned my life over to the care of God as I understood him. So when I did that, the love comes automatically. The grace pours in you like a waterfall. You just got to be able to recognize it. That's all. And it's, you know, it was funny when you were talking and Sandy was talking, and Sandy said, Mother Nature, you know, came along and slowed us all down. And I started thinking about the first time I heard of what timeout was when I put my kid in daycare when he was a little kid. He went at the Fort Monmouth Child Development Center, CDC. They could have called it the Combat Development Center, the way the kids acted half the time. So you would go in and they'd hand you a piece of paper and they'd say, we had to put Tyler in timeout today. And I was like, I went to Catholic school. There was no such thing as timeout, you know. So I was like, timeout? What the hell is timeout? I couldn't figure that one out. And they just pull the kid aside, isolate him, and make him, you know, think about what he did. And boy, that, you know, I said, man, I wish they had that in the 50s when I was going to Catholic school. But it worked. It worked. You know, I did it at home, and I was smart enough not to send him to his room to do that, because it had a TV, it had an Xbox, it had all that stuff in there, a Game Boy, everything else. And you know, don't, you know, you're going to sit in the room with me and watch something boring on TV like C-SPAN. That's your timeout. But thank God I didn't have to do that a lot. I really didn't. And he's, I'm going to call him a little later. You guys got to, well, El Paso's 2 hours different than here. So he called while I was talking with Bill on the phone before. And so I called him and told him I'd call him back later. I still haven't bestowed the good news on him, but I will. And he's a good kid. You know, good things happen today. Good things happen today, you know. This poor doctor's thinking it's his fault that he's, you know, oh, I'm a failure. No, you're not. No, you're not. You know, this is, you know, this is life. You know, it's going to happen. I'm good with it. Whatever you say. You know, it wasn't you. So, but
Right.
love is the way. Love is the way to make your day better all the time. It works every time. Where what I think of in here doesn't work all the time. It just gets me in trouble. And not all the time, but a lot of times it did. So today does belong to love. You know, so does every other day. And there is no fear. You know, if you have love, there is no fear. Simple as that. So, as my good friend used to tell me, this stuff isn't rocket science. You know, and I think that's what Jesus is trying to tell us in the book. He narrowed it down to two things. There's love and there's fear. That's it. You know, fear has lots of different forms, but those are the only two things that we got to worry about. If I'm connected to God, there's no fear. My buddy, that's what I call him. So, thanks.
There it is.
Mark.
So we're going to take a break, and we'll an 8-minute break, restroom break, coffee break, snack break, whatever kind of break you want to call it. But we'll be back in 8 minutes.
I'm going to put myself in timeout.
All right.
So when we come back, can Mark explain what lasagna ripple is?
Sure.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. So we are back. So I believe Debbie would like to share something, some insights that she received. So hopefully I'm not putting you on the spot, Debbie, but you did say you want to share. So
Yeah.
take it away.
Just listening earlier to the conversation about that other person that is aggravating us and who that person is and how we are responding to that interaction or that situation and how that's really an opportunity for us to learn, which I was sitting here when we're speaking about Bible, Krista, and Hebrew scripture, Greek scripture. The scripture that popped into my mind was the one at 2 Corinthians 12, verse 7. And this is Paul. And this is just, don't pay attention to this, because this is like the old Bible I used to read a long time ago. But the point in it, it talks about this. It says, therefore, that I might not feel overly exalted, there was given to me a thorn in the flesh, an angel of Satan, to keep slapping me, that I might not be overly exalted. In this behalf, I 3 times entreated the Lord that it might depart from me, and yet he really said to me, my undeserved kindness is sufficient for you, for my power is being made perfect in weakness. Most gladly, therefore, I will rather boast as respects my weaknesses, that the power of the Christ may, like a tent, remain over me. Therefore, I take pleasure in weaknesses, in insults, in cases of need, in persecutions and difficulties for Christ. For when I am weak, then I am powerful. So I have a thorn in my side. And this thorn in my side is the thing that actually is making me powerful. It keeps refining me because I consistently have to respond in love every single time. And if I don't respond in love to this interaction with this person that's teaching me, the thorn gets jammed in even harder and it hurts even more. And the only way that pain stops is if I just remember that that person's me. And the only way it's going to heal and catalyze and expand for myself and this other person, that we're not really separate, we're together, is if I anchor in love. So sometimes those very people we're looking at, there's thorns in our sides. And the more we see them as, as it's them against us, or it's them and this and that about them, the more aggravated that thorn is going to feel in our side. And so it's almost like we have to anchor in love. And I got the same message, Reverend Sheila, about the love, 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 love. So it's like this whole thing about all the stuff we're seeing is about love. It's about love in every single thought, action, word, deed, in just every aspect, just to be still. It's like, okay, that's my brother, that's me. And I have to love, because that's the only way this whole thing is going to be transmuted on a personal level and collectively. And that's my spill for the night. Thank you very much.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Deb. And Mark, I believe that Moj wanted you to elaborate on some of the things that you were talking about.
Lasagna.
Lasagna ruffles, you said. I have no idea what that is.
Yeah, lasagna ruffles, yeah.
Well, where I was born and raised, and I didn't say grow up. Men don't grow up, we just age. And it was predominantly Italian, and a lot of mom and pop Italian restaurants, and they make a dish called lasagna. And if you look at the edge of it, it gets a little ripple to it. It just goes up and down a little bit along the edges. And that's what I was looking for in life, not these big spikes, if it was a graph. And if the graph just went along rolling like that instead of like this, life was a lasagna ripple. So that's where that came from.
All right.
Thank you.
Now I'm hungry.
All right. So, does anybody else want to elaborate on workbook lesson 274? Yes. Yes, Susan.
I think that what helps me is starting to more, get really clear about calling anything that's unloving fear, and in myself or others. And that, just doing that, calling someone, like, just for example, the person in charge of the country, that behavior, that's kind of but just that person's in fear. Well, let's take a different example. Something, anyway, my sister said to me yesterday about my kids, they're something like they're just spoiled brats. And I thought, they're just in fear. That what they're doing is just showing there's fear. When people are defensive, when people are hostile or angry, and to look at it like that really helps it's just like all of a sudden it melts what's really going on. And then I applied it to some leaders in the politics, and she goes, wow, thank you. That really helps. And it just came out of my mouth, and it was like it dissolved all the judgment. And I hope I continue to try to allow that to, and then it also, because I know I have that in me, fear, it takes all its different forms. So I can see, it's almost like it helped me see the little kid in the person, because that's all it is. We're all little kids that are, like somebody had mentioned, to see others as our children. I can't always do that, but somehow seeing, oh, that's fear, it helps just realize that there's no hierarchy in any of it. It's not, there's worse fears or less fear. It's all the same. That's another thing too, is the ego wants to always make, oh, this is the big one, or this is, it makes it a big drama out of everything. And that's one of the ways it does it is, but whenever I'm out of peace in any way, it is a sign that I'm not in God's, we're looking at it with love. And that's my problem. And it's no one else's, and so that is what I wanted to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you.
I wanted to share something about that in my experience this past week. Sometimes when I wake up in the morning, I'm in fear. No particular reason, it's just a sense of fear and maybe even terror. And it's been that, I've had that a long time or whatever. And this past week, it's been a while, and I woke up and, the mind starts going into the thoughts that the fear generates or whatever. And I sat with that, enough to be conscious enough. And I'm like looking at it, and it's funny. I like listening. I have a bunch of recordings from this Unity minister that used to be in Key West that I really like. And I looked on my phone and I listened sometimes in the morning. And the message right on the thing I picked up was courage to face your fears. And I'm like, hey, look at this. So I listened, and what? Long story short, through it all, I found out that I was not I was not in pain from fear. I was in pain from self-flagellation for having the experience of fear, because I was saying things to myself like, you've been on this spiritual journey so long. What's wrong with you? You must be doing something not right, or there's something you should be doing that you're not doing, or there's something you're not doing that you should be doing. And it was just, and when I actually, because I asked for help, like, what is this? And, I'm asking, like, I've asked in the past, Spirit, and it says, Jesus says in the Course, don't ask me to remove your fear. I can't do that. I would be tampering with the most basic law of cause and effect, and the most basic law of the universe, and I would be deprecating your power. But anyway, I realized that what I was doing was I was not loving every aspect of myself. While we're on love, it was in it, and the realization of that was more powerful than any words that I can say to describe it right now. It was one of those things that comes from the inside, and you just go, wow. And I had this realization, and that was like I asked, I'm serious about this purification process that the Course says we're on. And I discovered area, that I still have guilt. That was guilt. The Course says that's our only problem. That's what fear is. And these things, what was amazing was that it was something that I had absolutely no idea was still in my mind, and when I looked at it, and by the time this process went through this, I mean, Mark and I talked about it that morning. I was just so grateful that it happened, because it was love coming to me to show me where I was holding something against myself that I had absolutely no idea I was holding. And this was a gift for me, and I never saw it before. And I was like, oh, Lordy, look at that. It was just like, oh, not just like, oh, okay. And I was like, I almost felt like jumping around, because like, look at that, because I want to be free of any, and when the Course talks about us removing the blocks to our awareness of love's presence, the blocks are not things that we're aware of, or like the Course says, we wouldn't hold illusions that we knew were there. We wouldn't do it. They're all things in the mind that we're unconscious of, and it says we all have that. And it was just an incredible experience, but it was like just a realization that if I had, when I realized that I was not loving that part of me, maybe that little boy that's still there, that's still scared or something, or I was not just loving every single aspect of what I am. Mm-hmm. I was critical of myself. And when, basically, and what that, the short word for that is, I thought I was guilty of something. Mm-hmm. And that is why I thought I was having fear like that. I thought, and that's the self-perpetuating thing, and I never saw it. Mm-hmm. And I never, I welcome it now, like our upsets. And, I was just watching this teacher the other day and said, our upsets come along, and that's like the divine alarm clock going off saying, you're believing something that's not true. Let's go take a look at it. You're believing something. And it's like, hey, the alarm clock went off, and it's like, get your attention, And boy, when I actually, not because it was like myself told it to myself, and I went, oh, I got it now. And it was like a healing took place. That was just, it was a miracle. And, my whole perception changed, and it's been different. It's been, that's why we do this. That's why we do this Course stuff. Right? That's why we're here, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's been just beautiful. Love does heal everything.
Well, you know, Bill, you know, you're on the road tonight. And so I'm glad that you shared that too. Because what you're talking about is wholeness, brother. You're talking about wholeness. You're talking about loving all of yourself. That's what you were talking about. Loving all aspects of yourself, not just the ones that you have coined the good aspects, but everything. And as a matter of fact, my Father's Day talk was about stepping into our wholeness and talking about that exact same thing that you were talking about, Bill. So thank you. Anybody else?
Much.
Yes, Moj.
I'm gonna say this is. I was smiling the whole time as Bill was talking, because the synchronicity of this. This morning, I was talking to two of my friends that they're also Course in Miracles students, and I was saying the same thing to them. That I was bringing up the fact that we are almost, and that was also what I recall as this was the lesson today was learned. I felt that we have that we give ourselves the hardest times, and that's why I won't think about loving myself if I'm dealing with somebody else, but it's easier for me to love others. So what I was telling them, that in the mornings I wake up, and some mornings for no reason I'm not on top of my game. It's like there is something wrong. And I was saying that to them as Bill was saying that, he brought that up. I'm like, oh my God. But anyhow, I listen to myself. Is why is today I feel off? Why is today I feel angry or sad or upset? And it's all the illusions. It's all the things that we were taught by society, or all the feelings that we're not good enough, or feeling guilty about that I'm not doing as much as I could, I'm not building as much as I could, and all of that are like really in the background, but they show up as I'm getting out of the bed and I'm questioning, what the heck is wrong with you? Why are you feeling that way? Or feeling guilty about, not paying my dues, or not. So it's all about what, or I could have done better. I should have known better. All these conversations comes to me, and so I can catch myself being in that illusion, and knowing, repeating to myself the prayers that I am perfect, I am blessed, I am released, I am son or daughter of God, I am light, I am perfect, and bring that prayer forth so I can release myself from that illusion. But it's hardcore, because back home you would get your grades out of 20, like 20 was 100%. And I would come home and I would say, oh, I got a 19 and a half. Even though my parents were, as far as I can recall, very supportive, my dad would just say, oh, somebody got a 20 across the street or whatnot. And even though, his intentions may not be for me that I'm not good enough because I got a 19 and a half, but I would think that. I'm like, that half a point got me. I'm not good enough. Or all the things that the industry says. Another thing of mine is, I gained like 500 pounds during this pandemic, and I wake up in the morning and times and I'm like, darn it, and I'm like, thank God we're not going out as much, thank God we don't have to be in social places, or I wouldn't be, teaching in front of people, or so on and so forth. So, but then I'm like, but there's more of me to love. there's more of me to hug. There's more of me to, so, but it takes work. It takes work to undo, to clear that slate, to clean up all the teachings.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Moj. And yes, you have to have a gentle heart with yourself. You know, you have to have a gentle heart with yourself. Be gentle with yourself. You know, I mean, you know, right now this theme is A Course in Miracles. How many times, and I'm going to get to you in just a second, William, I see your hand is raised, but you just have to have a gentle heart with yourself. And I've said previously in the past, you know, give yourself a pass. You know, let yourself make it. You know, just let yourself off the hook. It's okay. You know, just be easy on yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself. You know, love yourself. Love every aspect of yourself. You make a mistake, okay, laugh it off. Keep on moving. Just keep on moving. Yes, William.
Thank you. Thank you, all of you, my brothers, for sharing something that's in our hearts. All of us, we're all dealing with that. It reminded me of the autobiography of William Thetford, you know, with the Course in Miracles, one of the writers.
Mm-hmm.
And near the end of his life, he decided he had to forgive everyone that he ever held a grudge against.
Mm-hmm.
And so he made phone calls. He made, you know, he was so happy during that time. I mean, he came out of his shell, they said, and he was just very, very happy, bouncing around and totally unlike himself. And he forgave everybody, everyone he could think of, except for Helen Schuckman. And they had a little bit of a problem with each other. But he ended up forgiving her. He saw her in a dream, and they touched hands, and it just like everything was peaceful after that. It was just, yeah, forgiving. And if you're forgiving others, you're forgiving yourself.
Mhm.
And that's what's great.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, everybody.
Absolutely. 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 Anybody else want to share? Yes, Debbie.
I just wanted to say that I love that we're talking about love. That's all. I love that this particular lesson that you chose helps us to all open up. So thank you guys, everyone.
That we chose.
That we chose.
You know, we randomly chose because, you know, the spinning wheel is what chose that we were going to be doing the workbook lesson. And then I took all those numbers, you know, 35 squared divided by, or multiplied by whatever. And, you know, and then I come up with a percentage, and that brought me to lesson number 274, you know, out of 365 lessons. So there we go. So, you know, it was all in divine providence.
Very cool.
Yep.
Bill,
Absolutely.
anything that Bill wants to talk?
Yes, Bill.
I like on the theme of loving, you know, and like you talked, Stephen, earlier about biblical, you know, sayings of Jesus. You know, what good is it if you just love your friends and don't love your enemies? Like he said, I think it said even the heathen do that. You know, anybody can do that.
Right.
In Course language, that's called special love. You know, that we have love is something special here, but I can have dislike for something here. And it's saying that's just a total illusion, because that's not, you don't know love at all. That's not what love is at all, you know. And I'll tell you, when it took me, I mean, to get that, I thought, how can that be? It just seems so unnatural or so unhumanly possible to be in that kind of state. Like, you must have to be some kind of saint or something. I mean, not talking about me. You know, to do something like that, you know, well, voila, that's why it's called A Course in Miracles. And you know, and it says in the first page about love can't be learned, but, you know, we're here to remove that. Its aim is to remove the obstacles to our awareness of its presence. It's always present. You know, and it calls it our natural inheritance. It is our nature. It's every one of our real nature, and we have just, for whatever happened, we forgot or something. But like the willingness, the Course talks about that little willingness to see this way, and then spirit comes in and does the rest, you know. And to have that experience, I just get goosebumps all over my, I mean, it's like you just want to go out and just start hugging everybody, you know what I mean? Everybody, you just want to go walk down the street, and you'd probably get locked up now with the COVID thing, you know what I mean? But I mean, it's just such, it's like, it's I call it, it's just like being a teenager in love the first time. That feeling you get where just, oh God, isn't life the best thing that ever happened? You know, and it's our natural, it's our natural state. It's
Absolutely.
like we're just undoing the blocks that we have built up, you know, and it's our true nature, you know, to do that. And it just, I'll tell you, it just brings tears to my eyes sometimes when I get that. Like, that's what the guy's been trying to tell me all along, you know. And I couldn't accept it about myself, you know, like maybe some other people, but not me, you know. He doesn't really know me. This is for like, this must be for the holy people that are reading this book or something. You know, but that's, he is talking about me. He's talking about you. He's talking about every one of us. You know, you know, that one lesson, God is but love, and therefore so am I. You know, love, another one, love created me like itself. And I had them intellectually, and I'm like, yeah, that's really good. Just go, oh my God. Okay. That's right. And you feel it. You feel it, man. It's like it's really miracle seems like too small of a word sometimes.
Thank you, Bill. And I invite everyone here to begin to do exercises in positive perception. Okay? And just remember, I'm just inviting you. I mean, you don't have to do it, but if God is good all the time, I invite us to raise our consciousness a little bit higher so we can see that activity when it seems like that's not the case. Am I making any sense? Okay. So I invite everyone here to begin to train your mind to be able to see the synchronicity of spirit everywhere. So sometimes you have to move back a little bit from, you know, because if you get like this, then all you're going to see is something that's bad. Okay. So, you know, so sometimes you have to kind of see a bigger picture. You have to kind of expand your awareness and kind of look outside of the usual parameters. You know, this may challenge you at first, but over time, it's like a muscle. Like anything that you continuously work at, it will get stronger, and you will begin to see a world that is much more positive than you thought it was before. Am I making any sense? So you don't have to do this. It's not like I'm giving you a homework assignment or anything like that. This is definitely something that I do. So and I know it works for me. And it doesn't mean that you don't see the vision of pain and suffering and hatred and stuff. It doesn't make you blind. This is not a spiritual bypassing here. It actually, you know, gives you double vision. So you have double vision. So you're able to still see the world and all the different things and stuff like that, and see the fear and whatever it is you want to call it. But you're able to see something outside of it as well. So it's almost like you have double vision. So I invite everyone here to begin to expand your awareness and attempt to see the synchronicity of God happening in everything. If you want to really know how to have Christ vision, you want to train yourself for Christ vision and stuff like that, I invite you all to do this exercise with yourself over the next several weeks. And maybe we can talk about this another time. So, anybody else?
I just wanted to add to what you just said, that, I've been doing this gratefulness exercise in the morning for some time, or, during the day, whenever I could remember, to just be grateful for everything in my life, or at least for things I like to see in my life, and I see. And so that really has helped me see more of the good things that I want in my life, and open my eyes to see even things that I would think were not that good. Now I can see that, well, they can pass as good also. And it's just kind of blurring that line between good and bad. It's not that clear anymore, So it's given me a lot of insight.
Thank you so much, Ziba. That was so insightful. It's just like, and Claudia and I were talking about this. I'm going to expand a little bit on what you were saying, Ziba. It's just like the labor pains that a mother to be has prior to having that baby, and then you have that baby. Those labor pains, if you separate them from the whole aspect of having a baby, then okay, yeah, I guess you can separate it. This is bad. And then the baby's good. But in truth, they're really not separate at all, brothers. This is not separate at all. So just like changing the diapers, you can separate that from having the baby too. You can, start changing the diaper. I don't want to do that, that's bad, So if you want to separate that from the baby, hey, that's fine too. If that's what you want to do, you want to separate the labor pains from the baby, from changing the diapers on the baby and things like that, that's fine. But that's kind of where we are, why we're in this situation today. So I invite you to kind of look at a more whole picture. Like Ziba was saying, it's kind of, after a while, it's kind of difficult to differentiate between what was traditionally good and bad, because now I'm beginning to feel a gratitude for everything, for the entire experience, for the pain that I experienced, which pushed me into a greater understanding and realization, and the gratitude that I can't even separate it anymore. Well, it's like I said, as far as the baby, can you really separate it? Or is it part of one thing, one beautiful thing? And that's exactly what I'm talking about. Thank you, Ziba. And thank you, Bill. And does anybody else have any questions?
Shira wants to say something.
Mom?
Shira wants to talk.
She said no, she doesn't want to.
No? Shira.
Hi, Shira.
Oh.
She's saying Shira, not Sheila.
Oh, Shira. Oh, sorry.
I know me and Reverend Sheila's name kind of sounds similar.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great. Great to see. I didn't see you sneak. You just snuck in there, huh? You just kind of snuck in the back door. All right.
Yes, I did. That's how I do. So I just wanted to say something in reference to what everybody was saying, and then in reference to what Ziba was saying and what you expanded on, Stephen. Okay, so like I've been watching a few of Reverend Michael Beckwith's messages, Agape spiritual teacher, and I love, he says something, he says it quite a bit. He says, you have to love, he says so many people love humanity in general. And he says, you can't love humanity in general, you can't like say you love this thing, but then over here you're like, or whatever. He says you have to love in particular. And that's something that really resonated with me. It's very true. You have to love humanity in particular, meaning he was saying that you have to love
the person that you may be at odds with, or you have to love the person that may not necessarily look like you or share your same views or ideas. You still have to love them, though. You know, you may not like, you can agree to always disagree, but you still have to love them. And so that's something that really, really resonated with me, like not loving humanity in general, but loving all of humanity in particular, like your brother, your sister, the way you care about the planet, how you treat the planet, you know, just everything in particular. And another thing I was gonna say is, what was I gonna say? I forgot. It's slipping my mind. It was, oh, okay, I remember. And then he also gave an example. He did this really great breakdown of what is going on in the world and what's happening right now. And so just as Ziba, you know, kind of mentioned about, you know, the pain or the labor pains that may come with the joy that will soon come after it, he said he was kind of likening the chaos that we see to those labor pains that a mother might have before she's going into labor. And he said, underneath all that chaos, you know, there's this undercurrent of order that is about to emerge, a new, you know, order that's about to emerge, and a new, you know, wavelength of love. And so he was just saying, just keep holding the space, you know, for that love to emerge, because that's why what's happening is happening now, because all those light workers in the past and now have been doing this work, have been meditating and holding this space and creating and visualizing more peace and more love. And so now all this, you know, the dirt has to kind of come to the surface now to clear out, to clear out. It was just really interesting how he explained it and how he broke it down. And so I really appreciated that. I really appreciated him putting that spiritual aspect of what's going on right now. So that's all I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shira. And just like if you reach down and grab a rose and you wanna smell this rose and you prick your finger, is pricking that finger quote unquote bad? Is that bad, but the smell of the rose good? I mean, I see your hand raised, Claudia. So, I mean, are we going to just truly continue to compartmentalize our experiences like that? Or are we going to take them as in their entirety? So just food for thought. Yes, Claudia.
Forget, you know. Yeah, well, so another way I was listening what Shira was saying and what everybody's saying, and it came to me an idea that I was reflecting the other day. Sometimes say that we love certain things or certain circumstances or certain associations, things like that. You know, it's difficult to say I love this. But when we see that we are just basically calling love into the situation, that's kind of easier for me, you know. So like if when I say I love, it's not exactly like that kind of like, you know, like the love that we are conditioned to give, but it's just basically calling love into the situation, or into the person, or into the whatever it is, you know, into the virus or illness or whatever it is. It is like, but I will translate the I love you on that situation. Because it's difficult sometimes to say I love you COVID, you know, or I love you this. So but just thinking like it's just putting some light and love into that for me is easier.
Absolutely. You know, I have friends that call me up and, you know, they'll tell me different things like, you know, how they're having problems right now during COVID-19 and things like that. And you know, they just want to see somebody, see some people and things like that. And, you know, it's just a thing in perception. I mean, you know, and so I invite them. I said, well, you know something, you know, how much time have you really had for yourself, to be honest with you? You know, look at this as a good thing. You know, it's just a tendency to look at the positive. I mean, you know, if you can't do anything about it, then make the most of it. I believe there's a saying, you know, life gives you lemons, make lemonade. You know, so that's just a lesson in positivity and positive perception, and you transform your experiences. You know, if you got a bunch of lemons, you can look at it like, look at all these, what am I supposed to do with all these doggone lemons? You know, another doggone lemon. You know, can you stop giving me lemons? Just make lemonade. You know, who doesn't like lemonade? You know, well, maybe there is somebody that doesn't like lemonade. I don't know. But I love lemonade, you know? So I'm just saying, you know, put a positive spin on it. And that's what I'm inviting you to do. I'm not saying make something unreal, but find the silver lining. Find some silver linings in whatever you're experiencing. When you find yourself experiencing something that is not to your liking, I challenge you to find the silver lining in it. And you know something, you find one silver lining, you might find some more silver linings too. So we are about to shut down. So we have one more person and one last person before we close out. Anybody else in these last closing comments?
I could say something.
Sure.
I just want to say that about the, you know, the pre pain or the pre discomfort. You know, I always see it also as a prep work. You know, like we talked about the caterpillar, it needs that extra effort to come out. And as far as the pain, labor pains, you know, as my experience has been, is I needed those pain to acclimate myself to what was coming. And so I appreciated the pre-pain because it was, you know, it was something that acclimated my acceptance of pain for the actual gift. And it all, and it also about children that we know when we let them fail, they also learn better. So when they're in their 30s and 40s and they fail, they don't become like, oh, you know, what's going on? They know what's going on, and they're acclimated to, you know, whatever comes out their way. So I also see that, so they may not be good, the pain may not be good, but it's necessary for us to acclimate to what's coming up next as nature has it. That's what I want to share.
Absolutely. So that was great. A great closing comments, Moj. And it looks like the Reverend Sheila Gautreaux is not with us. So I am going to go ahead and close us out with a closing prayer. So let us take a moment and be still and just feel, as my sister Ziva said, feel the gratitude. The gratitude for all the wonderful discussion, all that we experienced through our moments sharing, all of the insights, as were emphasized by my sister Debbie, insights and realizations that were experienced as a result of sharing. And so we feel that gratitude today for the work of Holy Spirit impacting our lives in a profound and meaningful way. And so we are grateful for this masterful group. We are grateful for these moments of connectivity on Thursday. We're grateful as we take these moments of realization, these insights, these moments of wisdom, and we take them to assist us in our daily affairs. And so we feel that gratitude for each other, for our oneness, for all that there is. In the name and after the nature of the indwelling I am Christ that lives in and expresses in us, through us, and as us. And so we say, thank you, God. Thank you, Holy Spirit. And so it is. Amen. All right. Well, you guys, this is a wonderful Thursday night. Thank you, Debbie, and thank you, Zeba, and William, and Bill, and Moj. You were really doing it, sister. And thank you, Mark, for all your sharing. Shira, I certainly appreciate you. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Claudia. Thank you, Dad. Even though you didn't get a chance to contribute, I know
Thank you, Stephen.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Claudia. Thank you.
Bye.
Love you.
Good night.
Love you guys.
Thank you.
Thank
All right.
you.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.